Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. I'd like to thank Matt Gallivan, who's head of sales at JobAdder, for coming and co-chairing this session with us. And today we're just going to be talking about 10 steps to streamline your business development. Now, the backdrop is that Matt and we do a lot of work with the recruitment industry as separate businesses. And one of the things that we're being told a lot is that it's a very different market now. We all know that. But the biggest challenge is that for recruiters who are joining the industry or joined in the last few years and have never had to do business development, there's a bit of a disconnect, a bit of a culture shock. And so what we wanted to do was to put together this presentation just to help, consultants think through what is best practice in business development. We kind of put together a template, which we call the 10 steps to success. And we're going to be talking through each of these steps as part of the presentation, the standalone slides, obviously. But to start with, everything's about foundations. You need to have stable foundations in order to actually make your processes work. And a big part of foundations, other than training, is then applications. Which applications are you using in order to make sure that you're working effectively and properly? We're going to talk about market segmentation, targeting, making sure that you're going after the right markets. You wouldn't go to Iceland and start selling them ice cubes. They'll just laugh at you. Who goes to the desert and sells sand? It's all about which markets you're selling into. You could be the best salesperson in the world, but if your market targeting is wrong, you're going to fail. Then we're going to talk about managing your network effectively, because you can have warm leads that you don't even know about, and easy conversations just flow from it. Then we're going to talk a little bit about, recruiters increasingly are having to sell, but what can they learn from SDRs, whose job is only to sell and only to initiate conversations? And I think that Matt's insights from his SDR team at JobAdder will be very helpful here. Then we're going to talk a little bit more about the different sales methodologies and what each of them offer, through to them as a starter, what's the most basic sales methodology you can learn if you've never done sales before. Then we're going to go into pitching and how, as a recruiter, you can use data to enhance your pitch, through to objection handling, because if you don't learn to overcome objections, you're never really going to make a lot of sales. It's never going to happen. Objections as my first sales trainer used to tell me, objections means they like you. It just means they want you to dance with them a bit. That's what they said. So anyway, think of it like that. Pipeline management after that, and then it's kind of like, how do you quantify your pipeline, and what do you do to analyze it? Finally, negotiations. Good deal, bad deal. When to walk away from a bad deal? What is a good deal? What is a bad deal? And how to negotiate it through. I think in terms of foundations, let's make a point, which is you need to be making your website a traffic magnet. The reason is because if you can make your website a traffic magnet, it means in the first instance, people are going to be predisposed to talk to you. CTAs on your website, registering for things, create triggers so that people just fill out their name and say, give me a call. I mean, this for me is an absolute essential first step. I think once you've actually done that, and it doesn't even have to be expensive. Just having a basic, well-designed website with CTAs where people enter their information to get more information is just a really invaluable way to actually start your BD process. Matt, what do you? Go over to you.
So what we can do is, you need to live in your LinkedIn. We get that's where recruiters find candidates, but you've already paid for these candidates, you already mine them. And if they're tagged properly, so one thing JobAdder does is it tags everyone that comes in. If you're tagging them correctly, it means that you can start to get an understanding of what you've already got to work with, what you've got to sell. And you can cross-pollinate these things. So in most CRMs, what you'll see is there's a demarcation between what is a candidate and what is a client. But where can you mine your candidates, and you can start farming out to those who you've traditionally sold one kind of role into? You can find other kind of roles, but you need to look at what's working for you. What in your CRM is the high churn? So it might be that you're in sales recruitment, for instance, and at the moment it's software sales that is booming for you. Well, who else has got transferable skills? So you've really got to be looking at the data set that you've already got of candidates, of clients, and start to drill down, because every decision you make in sales should be driven by data and not by gut feeling, or this is what we've always done, because markets change, markets move, and this is something that should be a fundamental. Now we do this monthly and quarterly. So we have quarterly big changes. What do we see in the markets moving? What do we see that's not working for us? And then equally, we have those little tiny movements within the month. We say, actually, I'm going to go and try these 3 people here. I'm going to farm out these new candidates. But LinkedIn, you pay for. You pay for the credits. You pay for, all of the websites actually where you're getting candidates from. They're paid for. What you have in your system already is free to use, and is especially if you've been going some time, is a wealth of information. So you really need to make sure that you're getting the most out of that. And again, that's easy for me to say because I work for a CRM, but there's a reason there that the fundamental software that people use is because it's all of your information in one space. So make sure you're making the most out of it.
Thanks, Matt. And then just finally, so we can before we move to the next slide, and I'm going to say this is maybe an obvious point, and I joked about it earlier in terms of selling sand in the desert and selling ice to Eskimos. You need to make sure that you got market data telling you what's going on so that you can make sure you're in the right place to sell. We'll be talking a little bit more about that in the next slide in terms of on the specifics of that. But actually, where I see the recruiters that really did the best, I'll give you guys another funny stories just to myself. So 2008, the global financial crisis hits. I'd set up the company in 2006, right? And obviously, anyone who was involved in finance was a recruiter. They just cancelled their Vacancysoft subscription there and then. Well, why wouldn't you? The market's dead. So you know how we made it through? Well, we sold it into the pharmaceuticals recruitment industry. Why? Because people always need their drugs. And that's the point. It's like when the market shifts, shift with it. Have market data to see where the market's shifting to, and then mirror it. And that's, for me, a big secret. Okay, Matt, next slide.
So one of the things we'll look at. Go on, James, you go.
Yeah, go on, Matt. Yeah, so am I muted? No, I'm not.
Yeah, go.
All right, yeah, fine. So basically, before I'm going to talk about
well, James is gone, so I haven't got to worry about muting. So the market segmentation that's working for us at the moment is how do you define your core market? Can you mute yourself, James? How are you identifying it? What does it look like? Let's mute him. There we go. So how do you define your core market? So what are you going after, and what does good look like? Can we say, for instance, if you are in pharmaceutical, as James just mentioned here, what are the subdivisions within that? Don't use sessions. Yeah, I know. This was actually all fine in the test session and the preamble before this. It's just since we've gone live. But what are these segment markets that you go after? So, for instance, we have an ICP one, ideal customer profile of what is our ideal match in our space. So that looks like a certain head of recruiter. That looks like a certain financial buy-in. It looks like it has the right kind of market demographics that it fits to. And so, how are you actually getting this data? Are you putting a finger in the air and saying, "Okay, this is where we've always done, so it's great"? Or are you using data to say, actually, this is what is surging at the moment? And James uses a great quote. I asked him to speak on this now. James, do you want to talk us through what is that surge and not skills shortage?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talk to our clients, what we always say to them is focus on sector surges, not skill shortages. And the reason is because, look, in simple terms, the sector surges happen before the skill shortage. So if you want to get ahead of competition, focus on which sectors are surging, and then look to work with those clients because they're going to be the ones with the biggest need for services right now. And one of the things we do is we work with our clients exactly profiling that. But yeah, exactly. Back to you, Matt.
So as we look at it, for me, this is a massive part. And I should point out, I've been a recruiter. I've owned my own recruitment agency. your network is your net worth. And it is an old saying, but it's an old saying because it's true. So what you need to start doing is understanding who in your network can facilitate you being a better recruiter. So looking at your client list and saying, okay, who else has worked with them? Who else do I know? People who've worked there? Do I know people I've placed who have moved? Where is my in? And ask for those recommendations, because those people have already worked with you and they can already start to tell you, internally what a great recruiter you are, what value you add to the business. And are you more than just an arms and legs recruiter? Are you adding value to their network? So sometimes it's not as simple as saying, hey, I've got great people, but hey, we've noticed this is going on in the market. Salaries are changing, a shortage of workflow, a surge in workflow. It's what is changing. How are you adding value to those people? When we speak to our clients, one of the things we do as part of our sales cadence is to inform them about what the market is doing, not what we're doing, but what's going on in the market. And then we've got your track share of wallet changes. So, who are the movers and shakers within your industry? And where are you focusing? One of the things we're going to touch on later is the difference between when you're hunting whales or dolphins. If sometimes the largest movers and shakers, that actually filters down into smaller businesses that you may be dealing with. So understand.
Matt, sorry, I'm going to jump in there because actually one of the things that we're doing with our clients increasingly is, for example, because we're able to track aggregate job flow, and a recruiter may only work within a specific niche, we can actually show them what share of jobs you're currently getting over. You might see your job flow from your client being stable, but their job flow is increasing by 50%, and you didn't even realize it because you're just not talking to the right person. So in terms of managing your network effectively, it's also about having the insight of what else is going on in that organization, which you could easily be tapping into.
Yeah, and it leads us nicely to kind of identify your warm contacts and those moving contacts. So people you've known that you've worked with before, and as they move roles, are you tracking? LinkedIn is great for this. And actually one of the things JobAdder allows you to do is it mirrors your LinkedIn to say, when people update their profiles, you'll actually update in JobAdder. So again, when you're mining that existing data, where have they moved to? Have they recruited through you before? Or even if you've had conversations with them before, often when people move into a role, especially a management role, they get some budget, they get some leeway to make changes that they want to get the team performing in a way that they want them to perform. So now is an ideal time as they go in and they're speaking about what strategy they're going to do, what changes they want to make. Are you tracking those and reaching out to them? And again, don't do that cold outreach. I get so much stuff where it says, oh, Matt, I can see you doing this. This is what we sell. Yeah, I'm not interested. Where people start sending me interested, we've noticed these are the changes in the market. Matt, have you noticed X is up 12% at the moment? Whatever it is, something that I can engage with, and then you can follow up. You're giving something before you ask them something. So make sure you are following through those changes and movers, but also on the bigger picture as well, how a business is changing. Often they will put out, we've had a growth year, we're moving office, we're doing X, Y, and Z. As you follow through those social channels, they will give you cues about when you should be speaking to them. And it's about having a real cadence structure that allows you, and again, we'll touch this on the SDR piece, but a cadence structure that says, quarterly, am I speaking to the right people at the right time? Because it might be you scheduling stuff. We're looking for new office space, right? I need to be speaking to them once they've moved. We're recruiting for X, Y, and Z. Great. What does that mean for the wider business? How can I add value to them there? So maybe they're saying, look, we've started a new marketing department. This is our new head of marketing. Great. Well, this is what's going on in the world of marketing recruitment at the moment. Let me tell you what's going on. What are the changes? And then you can influence what's going on there.
And Matt, before we move to the next slide, whilst a lot of what you said seems obvious, I think the secret is actually organization, because everything you said, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. But the secret is actually building those notifications in, right? Building it in so that you don't have to remember to get back in touch with that person. You're mapping it and tracking it through your CRM so that you're actually building through all those sales notifications in real time, right?
Absolutely. And what a lot of technology can do now is you don't even have to set, like you can just set automated tasks for it to do. So it'll actually send this stuff out. So you can just say, look, I'll automate this. And on this date, we're going to send this to this person. And if they respond, this is the follow-up to then prompt you. So it's actually taking work away from you. So you can have those first few instances where you might be sending out your marketing collateral or insights automate the first part of it, and then only when they engage with that does the system prompt you to say, this is the person you should be speaking to and when, because they've actually engaged with your content. And so that makes it for a much warmer contact, but it also allows you to just farm out that kind of automated piece and just say, look, let the system take care of that, and I'll just do the human piece, and I'll reach out and I'll put that as part of my calling cadence.
That's good. Yeah, lovely. Oh, Matt, you're going to love this slide. This is all you.
So I'm a bit of a fanatic about this. I've been lucky enough to run SDR teams, what I used to call telesales teams, across the globe. And I currently have people in North America, UK, and APAC. And these were the key things that came out. And these are just real quick wins. So as you're doing your outreach, SDRs are that outreach. They're not BDRs. They're not there trying to get people to events or engage with the content. They are there for a sales purpose. How can I book a meeting with you? How can I move the sales conversation along? And so one of the things that we do here, and I think that most successful SDR teams do, is they integrate that marketing and sales are the opposite sides of the same coin. So you are intrinsically linked. And how do you insert that? So one of the things we do is as I mentioned earlier, we automate what goes out when, and we have a cadence, and you should have the same thing, which is a cadence of what does outreach look like? And an example of that might be they've got a lead score on my marketing stuff that says actually this person has now become warm. They've been to our website, they've engaged with a white paper, they've requested a demo, all those things. And then along there, when do I make a phone call? When do I send a LinkedIn outreach? And this, you need to look at the data. You need to actually look at your data and say, what's working for them right now? Put a cadence in and then tweak it over time. But how do you integrate that? And that is, I can see when somebody's opened my emails. I can see how long they've spent on there. I can see the links they've clicked into. Again, it comes back to if they've been to this part of my site, it triggers an automated response to send them our blog, our white paper, whatever that may be, but stuff that is actually
Matt. And I'm just going to ask for some questions here. I mean, from your experience, what kind of marketing do the SDRs find most useful and helpful in order to engage with those kinds of conversations?
So the things that we're having, and it changes, and this you need to be prepared to change with it. So what we're actually engaging with at the moment is people are talking about how they get more new business through the door. They've got candidates, they've actually got cash is the other thing that's interesting. I'm happy to invest in a new piece of tech, whatever else, but it's how do I grow my business in a down market? So this, how can you help me do that? And so what they use in there is we have a library of things that they can share. It says, okay, you spoke to me about finding new business. Okay, here's some blogs, but it's also the questions that the SDRs ask. Because if you say to somebody, are you looking to grow? There's not many people out there who's going to say, no, we're looking for less business. Those are obvious questions. But why are you looking to grow? How are you looking to grow? That gets people into a conversation. A conversation adds value. You asking them a list of questions only adds value to you. So what questioning techniques are you using to say, what is the why, the what, and the how of their kind of strategy moving forward? And this is what it means by starting this conversation with insight. It says, okay, well, what does that mean to you? You're looking to grow. You're looking to grow by how much? In new markets, in new segments? Are you looking to grow your net fee income? So is it just are you looking to grow by doing exactly the same amount of placements but more money per placement? Are you looking to come down market? Maybe you've been looking at C-suite and the level below, or are you now looking to go into more day-to-day roles? So that might be BDMs versus sales directors. That might be marketing execs versus marketing directors.
And Matt, just to interject quickly, and when we talk about starting conversations with insight, how much do you then use your own insights around what's happening and say in the market to then inform when they're having those conversations?
So about 50-50, depending on who we're speaking to. We lead with our thing, but we understand that we're completely biased. So we're saying that this is what our data is telling us, and this is how we apply it to ourselves. So we actually use a 50-50. We use market intelligence as well of the wider piece that's going on, and then we compare that with what we're seeing so that they have a fully world view. And this just positions us as market experts. So we can actually say, you know, this is what we do for a living. We live and breathe it. But this is what the market is telling us. And this is what the data we have internally is telling us. So that when we have that conversation, again, it's not just, hi, do you want to buy a CRM? How many seats do you want?
And by the same token, I guess, as a recruiter, it isn't just can we help you with a job? It's position yourself as a market expert, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's why are you recruiting for these roles? What's the output? Are you looking to grow a segment? Have you won a contract? Have you expanded into new offices? It's the why you're recruiting for the role, not tell me the job description, tell me about the hiring manager, tell me about the place where you work. Understand the why behind it, because the why behind it may lead to far more roles, but it also leads you to being more than just an arms and legs recruiter. And as I said, when I'm a recruiter in recovery, so when I was a recruiter, these are the conversations I had every day. It's the tell me the why, because that's way more interesting than the job description, which I can probably do myself. And then lastly, we've got the win-win next step, and that is, what are you looking for and what am I looking for? From you, I'm looking for who are the key stakeholders, who will be involved in the decision making of this, are other people involved, do I get exclusivity? And the win for them is, okay, this is what I've done previously, here's some testimonials, here's what I'm going to do for you, laying out those next steps that shows it isn't just a give me information, but give them information back, be consultative. And this worked for me massively. I was able to sign some of the largest businesses in the world into a very small recruitment agency. So I was able to sign BT, Tata Steel, Hinkley PowerPoint, all by having a conversation that was always next step. What are you getting from it? What am I getting from it? And taking them on that journey. So stepping into this, James, I'll let you.
Yeah, I mean, look, tell you what we've done is we've outlined what we feel are some of the leading techniques which you can use. And to be fair, these are all just frameworks, but the idea of going back to when we started the presentation, that you've got a lot of people who are in recruitment now needing to do sales in a way they've not needed to. What we felt was, let's map out some of the leading frameworks out there, talk a little bit about with them so you can understand which ones you should be using and in what situation you should be using them. Now, just very quickly, I'm going to cover off AIDA, PMC, and SPIN. But in terms of AIDA, this is actually this is actually a copywriting technique as opposed to a conversational technique. But it stands for attention, interest, desire, action. And the idea is that whenever you're writing anything which is going outbound, you should be using AIDA techniques. AIDA was actually developed as a journalist and copywriting technique in order to get people to read the news stories. So if you think about that in terms of your outbound email, using AIDA is going to help you get better open rates, better click rates. So we use AIDA with our newsletters, and in short form, we get, well, our best so far this year was over 60% open rates, 30% click rates on our newsletter. AIDA. For everything which is to do with copy, use AIDA. But then PMC, which stands for Probe, Match, Close. Now, this is what I'd call like the baby steps of sales. But if you've never had proper sales training, learn PMC because it will give you a framework to work against, which is just really solid, really robust, really reliable. And anybody who's a professional salesperson will have been trained in PMC. It's that universal. And then for me, my favorite is SPIN, because SPIN is all about objection handling. We'll talk more about these later, but in essence, you know, if you want to sell, learn how to manage objections. And for me, SPIN's the best technique for that, but that's a personal opinion. Matt, I'll let you follow through.
So yeah, for us, we use a mixture of Medic and Challenger, and this is where I've lived for most of my sales career. Personally, I am a Challenger sales professional, and what that comes down to is not accepting what somebody says to you. It's the why, and it's the asking. So you're looking for X number of people, and you want to pay 30 grand a year per role. Okay, why is that? Where does that come from? Who decides that? And it's the Challenger question that says you are always challenging what they're doing. We're looking to place them in this area. Okay, so you want to place them in London. Why? They are 12% more expensive in London when you have offices in Birmingham. Now, look, it's a part of that is you have to accept they're going to say, well, that's where our sales leaders are. That's where we want to recruit. You say that's great, but what Challenger Sales allows you to do is to get to the root cause of what they're doing and why they're doing things, and that allows you to then make suggestions that suits both of your parties, rather than just you're being told to recruit something, so you go out and recruit it. Now, funny enough, although I'm a believer in Challenger Sales and I love it, I also understand that what I'm selling into right now actually requires a medic approach. So we actually use medic in our business, and what that is all around is the professionalism and the breakdown of stages of what is each stage, what is the key element to it. So it might be, who is the decision maker? Are they an economic buyer? Are they an emotional buyer? And then tailoring your answers and what you do to that person individually and to that process. And so it might be something as following up with, we do wrap up. So everything we've said in this call, here it all is. Here's my next steps. This is what it looks like. Here is your action list on there. You need to go get the buy-in from the MD. You need to find times for interviews. You need to confirm the salaries for me. And it is owning that process that goes through. The other thing that's interesting about Medic is it is quite widely adopted across software sales, but it is starting to bleed into far more other divisions of sales now. So medium to large recruiters are taking this on because it differentiates yourself between a salesperson and a sales professional. A salesperson is an order taker. Somebody comes up and says, here's a list of features and benefits. Oh, here's all the things I can do for you. And for you, that might be, I've got 5 candidates ready to go in your region, in your budget. Off you go. Whereas a sales professional will sit down and say, great, this is what you're looking to do, but tell me what you're actually trying to do as a business. I get you recruiting these roles. Walk me through what the wider business is doing. What are your strategic goals and how do these roles align to them? And having a conversation is much more around their business than it is about this specific issue that they're trying to sell. So what are the wider business problems? James, do you want to at the end of it? You're on mute.
I think you covered it really well there. Let's go to the next one. I mean, I'll talk a little bit about PMC, and the reason we wanted to spotlight on this one in particular is just because, repeating myself, I know, but there are so many people in recruitment now who are having to do BD for the first time. And there is a case of, learn to walk before you run. And yes, Medic, Spin, Challenger. I mean, probably Challenger is the easiest to learn after PMC, and we'll come back to that later. But in terms of PMC, it starts with a really simple framework, which is before we start selling, we ask questions. Yeah. We need to get information about what it is the other person's wanting so we can understand how best to match against them. So we have 3 different tiers of questions, which are called product, process, perspective. A product question is kind of like, who are you and what do you do? Well, you should know that before you enter the call. That's a little bit of research. But in terms of the kinds of questions you want to ask, you really want to be focusing on process and perspective questions. So how are you doing that and why are you doing that? And that's why Challenger integrates really well into PMC. So that's where I would say the 2 dovetail really nicely. So perspective questions might be, so I saw that you opened the new office. How did that come about? And then they're just kind of telling you, well, we've been doing this here, been doing this here, been doing this here. And like, oh, that's really interesting. And what does that mean going into next year? If you're maintaining this kind of growth trajectory, does that mean you're going to have to move again next year as well? Maybe. And then suddenly you've got 12 to 18 months horizon in terms of what they're thinking about. And so you're suddenly thinking to yourself, okay, and then you say, and in terms of the teams you're scaling up, is it just going to be this team or are there other teams around it as well that are going to be scaling up as well? And then you suddenly got a full 360 roadmap of their entire growth strategy in front just by asking the right questions in sequence. And yeah, I'm like, probably, Matt, I just integrate Challenger into my PMC, but that's just me, to be fair. But PMC done properly would be integrating Challenger. That's probably fair. So the point is that once you've gone through and you've asked the questions, then you can start to talk about matching and saying, okay, so for example, if they're scaling up their IT security team and you're a leader in IT security, you just say, look, so from our perspective, we've been operating IT security for a really long time. And actually with these guys, they're needles and haystacks, and you actually have to know how to find them. And just importantly, you have to be somebody that they will reply to. Because we've been operating for so long, we'll actually be able to have soft discussions with them, even if they're not actively thinking about moving, and have a discussion with them about the opportunity of presenting them in a way which means that we can get you in front of people that aren't actively looking for a job right now. And that would be an example of matching, and so forth. And then what we would always say is that when you're doing this, integrate funneling. So funneling is a technique where you start, it's just like a 6-step technique. So you start by saying, right, let's talk about the market. Let's talk about competition. Let's talk about your business in terms of how it fits against the market and competition. Let's talk about budget in terms of what your ambitions are and how you're then looking to compete against it. And then let's start talking about solutions and ways that we can integrate into that. And you just work it through, and done effectively, it means that you start off with really nice, open, easy questions, and you're drilling in really fast, integrating challenger along the way as well to keep it focused. And you'll suddenly get to a point by the time that you want to talk to them about how you can help, it's obvious that they should buy from you. Matt, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, please on mute.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so, yeah, I agree with what you're saying about introducing challenger into this as well. But it's that probe match close is a repeat conversation that goes on. It's not a surface level that you say, look, I've ticked a box and I've had this conversation, but it's the probing that goes further and further, that allows you to truly understand what they're doing, match something against them. And again, for me, it comes back to being a sales professional versus salesperson. And if you're in recruitment, by the way, you're in sales. I hate to break that to you. I'm not. I see so many people who say, no, I'm a recruiter. You're actually in sales. James, this is you.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Matt. So now, when you're talking about the pitching, and this is something I think recruiters are getting better at, to be fair. So once again, I'll cite my grey hairs hiding somewhere. But so when I set up this company in 2006, and we started, multinationals would use thought leadership in order to enhance their pitch. Now we're getting businesses of all sizes wanting to, because the biggest problem of being a recruiter is when you get hit with someone who says, well, we only pay 15% fees. And how do you overcome that if the only thing they see you as being is an order taker who supplies CVs? So using data is critical, because what you can start to do is say, well, the reason why you want to use us is because we can give you insight around what's happening with the market. We can tell you exactly where the skill shortages are happening. We can tell you in terms of your competitors what else they're doing at the moment and what that then means when you're trying to hire. We can talk to you about salaries and what's changing there, so you understand which areas you're going to be most under pressure from people getting offers from your competition. All of this acts to demonstrate relevance and mean that when they think to themselves, should we use these guys or not? Like, no, we need to use those guys. And even if we would only pay 15%, we'll pay them 20% because we need that insight. It actually brings down our recruitment costs using them, ironically. So obviously that's something which we support our clients with. But I'm not just saying that as a plug. I would say the successful recruitment businesses are doing this. I'll put myself on mute and go.
So yeah, you're absolutely right on that, and it's one of those things is that you're right to plug yourself, James, because actually that is what you do very well. And it's I always joke and laugh. So if we just go back to this quickly, it's that market activity piece for me that actually is the key differentiator. So the relevance is great, and I think you can talk to that once you're in the conversation. But that market activity is a true demarcation about this is what is actually happening, not just today, but this is historically what we can look at, and this is what we think is going to happen in the future. And it might be something as simple as saying, we've seen that your industry has grown year on year by 10%. That's great. But also, unemployment is at an all-time low. We're at 3.9% unemployment in the UK. We are prospecting that we're in a recession. Things are looking a bit bleak out there, so people are less likely to move jobs. And it's showing your understanding of what's going on there, and it's not just what I call arms and legs recruitment. We're just going to move into spin very quickly, and this is about overcoming objections, because this is, for me, one of my favorite parts. I live in this with my SDR teams. One of the things on here is asking non-threatening questions. Please do not be mistaken. This is not saying don't challenge somebody on what they're saying, but equally, if you're speaking to somebody and you're saying, look, what we can do is, we're looking to replace you, or this person could be in your job in a year. It's not threatening their day-to-day of what they're doing. It's asking, explain to me why this is important. Articulate, where are you in this process? And so what we often get across is somebody will say, no, we have an in-house recruitment team. Great. When they're not able to fill roles, what is your backup plan? How important is it to make sure you have the right people in place in the right time? What is the financial consequence to that? And the first objections are always just barriers to sale. They're programmed. They get so many calls a day, so many emails a day, they're programmed to white noise it out. But if you can engage with them that says, okay, talk me through this. So, and a great example of this is you might be saying to them, okay, what's the consequence of you not placing this role? What is the consequence of you saying of this role taking 3 months rather than 3 weeks to place? And then you get to show them how you help solve that problem. Historically, we totally get that you want to do that in-house first, and you've got a great team and they're doing really well. But what we often do is we support the in-house recruitment teams by providing candidates technology, market views, again, collateral that they can give candidates as well, so that you are that logical next choice. That when you're not number 5 on the list, you're number 1 on the list when they can't recruit internally. One of the things I did at my agency was we targeted people who were between 1 and 20 million, and typically didn't have a dedicated resource for hiring. It was left to hiring managers. So if it's the hiring manager, if it was the actual manager that was doing this, rather than a dedicated TA resource, to say, okay, well, how much time are you spending trying to find these people? Are you doing paper sifting? How much time are you doing interviewing? How much time? And then if you don't get the right person, that's a waste of time. And then you get to sell them on exclusivity, right? Well, when you're working just with me, you're not going to get the same candidate 5 times from 5 agencies. You're just going to work with me. If you're just working with me, we can have a dedicated time to catch up. All of these things are starting to change their view on recruitment. I was actually with a large agency recently, and one of the things they said to us is, how do we become, and please take this, I know this is recorded, I stand by what I say, but they said, how do we become just not another recruiter in a next suit? Because it's a low barrier to entry for somebody to go out there and get some ads on a job board and start calling out there. How do you differentiate yourself? And look, there's lots of, as we came out of the pandemic, we saw lots of people who were a part of large agencies who've set up in their own bedroom. We've seen a massive surge in that space where they've gone out on their own. What is your differentiator? What does good look like for you? And their objections will tell you what's important if you ask the right questions. So they might come to you, we've got no budget. We've got no budget to recruit. Okay, but what's the impact of not aligning budget to this? Go on, James.
And then Matt, I was going to say, I think the key is understand the universal objections. So you got your universal objections like, yeah, we got no budget. Oh, I want to think about it. Oh, we're already using somebody else. Oh, we used you guys before and it was a bit dodgy, etc. And I think once you understand what the universal objections are, then in advance you can understand which one of those is going to be hidden objections, and ask the right questions to understand what the real objection is. Because it's only once you start unpicking the real objection that you've got a chance at turning them around. A lot of people will just give you straight back responses, as Matt, as you were saying, where they go, we've got no budget at the moment, or we're using somebody else at the moment, we're fine. And that's probably for a recruiter the most common objection you'll get, which is we're already using somebody else. And you've got to then think through second order questions in order to then negotiate around those objections.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because if I speak from personal experience, we don't call anyone that says, oh, funny you should ring, we're a 40-head recruiter and we don't have a CRM. They say, yeah, we're already using somebody, thanks very much. And so that is our most common objection. And they'll say to us, they're using a competitor. And look, they're great. They do exactly what it says on the tin. is it doing everything you need to at the moment? And once we start that conversational piece of, yes, I know you've got a CRM, and they'll say, yes, I know you've probably spoken to an agency or at least dealt with one in the past. What's your experience? How's it going? Are they doing what you need to do? And if it's all positive, great. They're having a great experience. They value a recruiter. They're telling you, this person's awesome. Yes, we spend money with them. They understand the value of what you add. So you haven't got that's not an objection to overcome. That is suddenly turned into, okay, well, how do I get a piece of that? How do I become a trusted partner? For the roles they can't fill, can we start with a small segment over here so I can prove my worth? These are things that are often missed by recruiters, and they think they do them, and they don't.
And Matt, I think there's one thing you said there which I just want to amplify, because I think it's absolutely critical as part of this spin. It's when they say, oh, we're already using somebody else, there's a really simple 3-step technique here. So you start by saying, okay, let's understand, you say CRM, with the recruiter, in terms of what you need from a recruiter, do you get, is that giving you currently everything that you want? And then they'll either say yes or no. And then you flip it and you say, and in terms of everything you'd want from a recruiter, are you getting everything that you would need? And it's a very simple flip. But the point is that you're asking the same question twice, but in inversion. And then between them, they give you openings. They'll say, oh, well, yeah. And then if you need to prompt them, you can actually give case studies. And storytelling is also very big fundamental of actually getting people to buy into you. So you might say, now, the reason I say it is because we just started working with so-and-so. They felt that they were okay, but actually they were missing out on X. And because we were able to start working with them on that, they've actually really, really been, they've gone with us exclusively. And it might be like, we helped them identify that actually in that particular job market function, salaries had gone up by 15%, and they were at risk of losing key staff, which would actually cost them more in recruitment fees. And the current suppliers were happy to just service them. We helped them understand where the salary shortages were happening, skill shortages were so tight that they were at risk at losing people, because we want to have long-term sustainable relationships where everyone makes money. Pin drop, mic drop. Oh, that's interesting. I want to feel that you're going to look after me not that way, and not just be somebody who's just trying to take as many jobs off me as you can, and know that I'm going to see a load of people lose because our finance director is too tight on salaries. And you're going to give me insight on how our salaries are behind market average, and that we need to increase our salaries not to lose people. And you're not going to charge me for that just because you want to work with me. Oh, okay. I'd like to talk to you more, please.
Yeah, interestingly, you also want to, and this is one of the things I'm big on, is qualify out. Some objections are genuine. They're telling you, when we're not recruiting at the moment, we're on a hiring freeze. Okay, you get some future information. When is that? What does that look like? You have that conversation, that's fine. But you also want to qualify out. You don't want a pipeline so big that it's unmanageable. Deal with those that want to do business with you. Those who tell you, we've got no roles at the moment, we're actually downsizing, we're struggling. Those are not people you should be chasing all the time. Take the information in, thank them for their time, put it into the CRM, schedule something for 3 months. Say, okay, your hiring freeze is over in 3 months, 6 months. Schedule some callback. Am I okay to reach out to you in that time? Thank you, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer. I'm out.
Matt, I'm conscious we're running tight on times. Let's go to the next one. We've only got a few slides left. Over to you. Matt, this one's all you.
Yeah, so this is where I live, right? The pipeline of reality, I call it. And when I manage salespeople, I tell them, if it's not in their pipeline, if it's not in CRM, it doesn't exist. But what we'll often talk about is the difference between whale clients and dolphin clients. Whales great to go after. It's that feast, and we all celebrate and high five when we get in the office. Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely amazing. But what dolphins do? They keep the lights on. They keep the lights on. They keep us paid. And they have much more consistency to them. So it's that run rate business, and you need a mixture of these in your pipeline. What you'll often find is that people will hold on to whales because like, no, I can't let it go. I'm doing this, often when they need to qualify it out. Whereas with dolphins, you've got a lot more to play with. If you lose one, totally okay, because you've got 5 or 6 more there to replace it. Losing one whale and having nothing to replace it is a problem. So in your pipeline, make sure that you are spending time on both of these equally, but that you are converting at a better rate in your dolphins than you are in your whales. It's great to have a whale land, and we all celebrate those big wins. but actually lots of little wins provides consistency to approach. Understanding the passive no again is a massive one for me. And I'm just conscious of time, you're right there, James. So actually, I want to go into determine the key variables and quantify them. What is the variables to them as well to you? So it might be within there that you look at your average order value. So what is that? What is your average time to close? How long does a sale take from start to finish, from inception to close? Understanding these variables will then allow you to forecast better, but also in those key variables, it allows you to say to the client, this is when you can actually expect some things from me. And those variables might be around what you charge them. So you have different rates of pay. You have what is your success rate within that field. Now, one thing that JobAdder does is we actually give, as your pipeline moves through, so you have CV sent, you might have interview, you might have second interview, all these different stages, no matter how many you have, we give a pipeline weighting and an average order value, so you can see what you're likely to close and when in your entire pipeline. So you look at that and go, great, I've got X amount in this, so I've got 20,000 here, 30,000 there, and 15,000 here. And knowing my sales cycle, that's what it's actually going to relate to in real money.
Matt, I'm going to start just going to understand the passive no. I'm going to touch on it really quickly, but whilst we're going to the last slides. This is the last slide, guys, by the way, negotiating the deal. So in headline, different methodologies apply here. I just think it's a timeout. For me, if I've sent over a pitch proposal and I've sent in a few email chasers and I've left a few voice messages and they're not coming back to me, it's the wrong time. Just move on and just accept it and move on. Doesn't matter how big it is on paper. Forget about it. Free up the mental energy for the next one. Matt, let's go to the negotiating the deal, so we can give this one a little bit of a few minutes before we wrap. I'll just start with this one quickly. In project management, we talk about the value triangle, which is where a combination of price, quality, and speed. And in the secret of the project management triangle is that you can have two of the three. You can either, charge a lot and do everything quickly to high quality, or you can charge less and basically then either one of quality or speed suffers. But understand your proposition in terms of the value triangle and understand how you're positioning it in terms of what their needs are. And that's the real secret. Make sure that you've asked the questions along the way to understand what their value triangle is, and then think through your proposition to match it. If somebody says to you, look, we don't really mind if, for example, we don't really mind in terms of how many CVs you send over, which I'll never say, but whatever. Okay, it's a high volume play the high volume, show that you can match the high volume. Depending on what they're saying to you, think through how you match against it. Matt, I'll let you wrap from here, so because we've got a few minutes left.
Yeah, so just touch on what James said. I actually had a scenario where somebody came to me and they said, we're looking for this really specialist person. There's not many of them in the UK. They were willing to pay, but we need them yesterday. And I was like, well, no, you can't have that. If they're in demand, hard to find, you can't have them quickly. We need to go through a proper process. Don't be afraid of saying no to people. And again, negotiate. So many times the negotiation is often around, what's our percentage? Oh, well, we'll bring it down a couple of percent. Don't race to the bottom. What value can you add and keep that high? I actually don't care what that is for your individual agency, but understand where your value is. And negotiation isn't always around price. And again, clarifying what they prioritize. What's important to them, not what's important to you. Inform them of that. I can't be clear enough. Inform them of, you've said your priority is X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to match that, and this is what it looks like. Just some recommended reading here for you guys.
Yeah, I was just adding. Yeah, just going to add on the negotiations just before we finish on that one. I've checked. We don't have any direct questions, so we've got a few minutes left, and we'll just finish up with that. But I think the other thing, and you touched on it, Matt, when it comes to negotiations, there's a really, really good book on this one, which is called Never Split the Difference, which is Chris Voss, which I really rate and really recommend. And you touched on it, don't race to the bottom. The real point is understand your red lines. And actually, the secret of negotiation is very directly telling the counterparty what your red lines are and say, look, there's lots of things we can talk about, but these are my red lines, and you're not gonna cross them. Whatever happens. Now, it might be that your red line is that you're not going below 20%. And so you say, right, well, our red line is we will not do business below 20%, but there's lots of things we'll talk about. We'll talk about how we can help you with this, how can help you with this, how we'll help you with this, how we help with this, and then you sell the value as part of the negotiation. It might be that you say, some other businesses, like our red line is we only work with people on an exclusive basis, but we'll bring down our fee structure accordingly if you're going to work with us exclusively, and so on. When you go into negotiate, understand the red lines, hold the red lines, and then trade all the other variables to make them work around the red line. That was just the only thing I wanted to add there on that one. But yeah, recommended reading. All of these are worth reading. But Matt, I'll let you give your thoughts.
Yeah, so for me, the two that I've used when I was in recruitment is never split the difference. Is my number one on this. It was the FBI's number one negotiator, and his line is, the only way you win in a negotiation is if you get all the hostages back. So in a hostage situation, the FBI, if you can't go, well, I'll tell you what, you keep 5 and I'll take 5 and we'll call that a happy day. So he says, never split the difference. How do you keep your worth within those deal negotiations? And it's a good read. It's not dry. It's very interesting with lots of anecdotes. I really suggest it. And for me, then I would say Medic Andy White is much better on the audiobook, but the Challenger sale, either or, if you want to get the book or the audiobook, those are the ones I'd say in there. The others have been around for ages. Zig Ziglar's been around forever. Spin Seller's been around forever. They should be part of your absolute library. Get them into your agency, share them around. You should all be reading them and practicing and using them. So I'd make sure you get a hold of some of those. James?
1 minute left. Quick plug for people attending today. If you want to find out how you can use data to get your lead generation going and actually improve your market intelligence, you can sign up for a free trial. Little pop-ups just come up now. Click there and away we go. We'd love to show you what we can do if you don't already use us. And yeah, Matt, in terms of JobAdder, I think we've tried to do something similar for you.
Yeah, thanks very much. So for us, the JobAdder, head on over. We've got lots of free literature. We've got a wealth of things you can get into. But equally, get on a free demo. We'll walk you through the system, see how we can add value. But there's also a catalogue of things that we've done around Gen Z, how to book to bill, whatever it is that you're looking to. Get on to JobAdder, and we'll more than happily talk you through what we can do for you.
And we'll basically, and at this point, that's a 1 hour wrap. Good news is there were no questions, so we've timed it perfectly. Thank you everyone who's come and joined us today. Hopefully you've found some interesting insights there. We're here to help, so if there are any things that have come up today which you feel like either one of us can help with, then just do get in touch. You can reach us, you can reach JobAdder. The details are here. Also, we'll be sending around copies of the slides to everyone who's attended today, and we'll be sending around, like I said, and anybody who wants to connect with us on LinkedIn, please do. I'd like to also say, Matt, thank you very much for co-hosting with me, and it's been a lot of fun. So, happy hunting, guys, and hopefully you've learned something today which will help you with your BD and your pitching in the coming months. And I'll let you close, Matt. There you go.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I'm really happy to speak to anyone about recruitment in general, different technologies you might be looking at. I really geek out over this stuff. So if there is stuff that you just, even if it's not JobAdder or Vacancysoft, if you want to just reach out and say, look, what do you think of this? I'm James would do the same. I'm sure he geeks out on this stuff as well. But you can get us on LinkedIn. So we put our generic numbers in here, but happy to chat to any of you around what's happening in recruitment, what technologies, what good and bad looks like. As long as we don't discuss the rugby, because I'm Welsh, please feel free to reach out over anything, and we'll happily engage. I suppose that leaves me just to say thanks very much. It's been great having you on, and good luck in the coming months with your sales activities. Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone.